What's up, everybody? It's been about a month since our last monthly vlog, which means it's time for another monthly vlog. So here we are. Uh, just rewatched the previous one so that I can have some idea of what I talked about and what I should do to pick up where I left off a bit. Uh, Notify you of progress or whatever. One of the big topics was moving, and that's still my primary concern right now is finding somewhere to live and then living there. So, status on that is that I'm still saving up for it. I'm still able to do that. Uh, and I've got an idea of where to go. One place so far. I'm not set on it. I'm not like, this is definitely where I'm going, but I have an actual possibility now, so that's cool. I've started talking to my brother recently about it, and he mentioned how it's really cheap to live in his city. I had another brother who I talked about on my stream recently, and he mentioned it too. He was like, "Oh, it's really cheap here," but then I looked, and the internet service there is practically non-existent. You can pay uh, the better part of $100 a month for wireless 1 megabit service. So it's horrible. It's I would never be on Twitch again. Probably not YouTube either. Probably no Steam, nothing. It would just I basically wouldn't even have decent internet. I'd be able to read news articles slowly and that'd be it. So I wasn't super keen on that idea considering how much I enjoy using the internet and honestly how much of my income is from the internet. That's, a big deal. Uh so yeah, that kind of went out the window. But then I started talking to my other brother about it, and he says it's also very cheap to live where he is, and he actually has good internet in his city. So, I mean, I'm looking at it. I've been looking at it for maybe a week now, and it looks pretty good. I might go out there and visit, take a look around, see if that's somewhere I want to live. So it feels very good to have, an actual option to consider, a possibility to work towards. So I'm stoked about that. One thing I'm not sure about over there is the situation with just getting around the city, how viable it is to live there without a car, because I don't have a car, and cars are expensive, so that just, that kind of increases the cost of things if I need to get one in order to live there. So, yeah, I mean, that's probably a weird concept for some people because a lot of countries everywhere has decent public transportation, but I'm in my city I live in now, for instance, public transport basically doesn't exist, and that's part of why it's such a pain in the ass for me to get a job. It's because need a job to pay for a car, need a car to get to the job. So that's a big reason that Twitch has been super helpful for me and just paying the bills. um, just being able to work online has been massively helpful for that. But yeah, overall, I think this city is looking pretty promising. I think it could be a very good possibility for me. And I think moving could end up opening up some possibilities for my Twitch channel as well. Maybe YouTube as well. I don't know. YouTube is still pretty iffy right now, but Twitch for sure. One thing that bugs me is it's since I live with other people, it's really hard to schedule anything for my stream because I never know, when my house is going to be noisy or when I'm going to need to go do something or whatever. I don't have a great sense of what kind of schedule I can operate my stream on. So I can think of at least a couple of people who are always wanting me to do something or other on their channel, and I'm always I don't know, and I never end up doing it, racing with them or whatever. And I feel like these people think I hate them or something by now because I've turned them down so many times. But yeah, scheduling is just hard right now. So hopefully maybe that'll change once I've moved. That would definitely be a cool thing. Um, Another thing I talked about in the last video was I spoke a fair bit about my income from Twitch and how that was doing. So one thing to note is that I said, uh, well, I made enough this month or in December that I was able to stash away a decent amount for moving, the moving fund or whatever, and I expected that income to drop off. I didn't expect it to keep up very much because I figured it was just due to, holiday generosity for Christmas and New Year's. But it actually hasn't dropped off that much. I mean, there was definitely some holiday generosity going on. That's definitely a thing. It's dropped a little bit, but not nearly as much as I thought it would. Like subscribers, I expected the subscriber count to drop, and it hasn't really at all. I thought once we hit 50 and got that new emote, people would, unsub, because that's generally what's happened in the past. It's how it's usually worked, but we're hanging pretty steady at 50, so that's definitely super cool. One thing for me to consider, to keep in mind, is that a pretty good chunk of my income from Twitch is from like a handful of people just being super generous, which is pretty awesome, but at the same time, it's probably not super stable. Like if somebody just, gets bored or goes on vacation or something, that's a big chunk of my income gone, so gotta be careful about that, not rely on it too much, hopefully. Uh, I'm also, another thing to consider is that I've never made all that much, so I've never had to pay that many taxes on my Twitch income, but now that I'm making substantially more, I don't have a great picture of how much I should expect to be paying on this. Like, I'm not sure how much of this income is going to be money that I can actually spend and use, and how much of it is going to end up going to taxes. So that's something I still have to work out and get a better picture of before I can make any huge decisions. But overall, I'm making substantially more off of Twitch than I ever have, and that's definitely cool. And it means that I should be, even after moving, I should be able to keep streaming a decent amount, and maybe even continue streaming like as much as I do now, full time. That would be really cool. I'm not making enough that it's like comparable to a full-time job. I will need to pick up other work, but it's not like I'm not gonna need to pick up another full-time job in addition to Twitch. It'll be like part-time stuff is enough to make up the difference. So that's a big deal, I would say. I'd definitely call that a big deal. The fact that it's making a serious dent so that I'll actually be able to have the time to keep streaming a good amount. So thank you guys for helping me out with that, or even just watching or whatever. It's thanks again. It's been cool, and I'm stoked. I'm stoked about that. The fact that things haven't dropped off all that much. Let's see. So yeah, possibilities for that. I think it is enough that I will probably be able to just work part time, whether in like a brick and mortar place or picking up other online work or whatever. I think I can get by without another full time job, so that's definitely cool. Another thing is, in the time where I maybe don't have another job because I've just moved, even if it's not enough to just pay the bills outright, having an income with Twitch, like when I move, having that income follow me there and be able to keep, making some money while I get things sorted out, that'll really go a long way, I think, towards just making it less stressful, running out of money at a much slower rate while I figure out what I'm going to do for the remainder of the income that I need. Instead of losing like $1,000 a month, just losing like maybe a few hundred here and there, until I've got, like steady employment or whatever. So that's a really big deal. That's like huge, having that cushion of income to help me out in just, not like plunging and burning away all my savings immediately. So it's very comforting, honestly. It feels very nice. Let's see, any other announcements? One thing I've thought about doing is I would really like to learn programming. I've started to learn computer programming like multiple times, and all I ever do is start and get like the basics, and I'd really like to proceed past that. But one thing it's just hard to keep up with, and another is it's hard to justify. Like when I get stuck on something or when I feel like I'm not making any progress, I start to wonder like, is this a good investment of my time or whatever? And I feel I feel nervous that I'm just like wasting my time or something. So something I've considered doing is starting an occasional like second stream later in the day where I just put in a couple hours of just working on learning programming and getting better at that. Like I even went to college for it for a while, but I was bad at all of the other classes that you have to take if you want to learn programming. I didn't do great in like English and history, so it didn't end up working out. I did do very well in my computer science courses, which is what I was majoring in. So if I can just find some free, uh, you know, CS courses online, or maybe just buy a textbook and work through it or something, I think that's not a terrible idea. And maybe people would be interested in watching me do that. I know there are a lot of programmers on Twitch who might be able to help me out a bit if I do get stuck. So I think that's not a terrible idea. I imagine it's not something that a ton of people would watch, but it'd be a good way to keep myself accountable, make sure that I keep working on it, because, there'd be people asking, haven't seen you done this in a while, haven't seen you made an attempt at that in a while, so kind of like these vlogs. I said in my first video, I'm doing this, a bit of this at least, is just to keep myself accountable and make sure that I keep on working on making progress. So that's one more way I could do that, but I'm not sure when I would actually start doing the programming stuff, because there are probably other things that I should be giving a higher priority right now. Just making sure that I am, stashing away a decent amount of money, saving up, and building some kind of income that I can take with me, figuring out where I'm going to move, all that stuff. Moving is the highest priority right now, but occasional coding streams are definitely something that I might start working on in the future. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. I've got a little list of topics here that I've been glancing over at. I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover, though. That basic summary, the too long didn't watch, is I've got an idea of where I might want to move. Streaming is still going well. I'm still having good fun with it. And the revenue, it didn't drop off a ton, it dropped off a little. I think the overall trend, revenue-wise, is still pretty good. I'm happy with it. Not enough to live off of on its own, but it's a good chunk of the income that I'll need. So it's very helpful, and I should be able to keep streaming a good amount after moving. And maybe programming streams in the future? I don't know. It's a possibility. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Thank you very much for watching and just being an excellent person and all of that good stuff. And hopefully I'll see you soon. Have a good one.